And when we actually dive into like the history of LSD, there was such this suppression around these medicines because it really started to have us see the world in a different light and to ask questions. And ultimately, the government didn't like that. In our youth, if you played around with some of these medicines, a lot of the time we were using them because, well, we wanted to get high, right? And I'm actually really thankful that I'm in this period in my life where number one, I'm very rooted and grounded in my life, in my well-being, in my health, in my relationships, and, very connected to self and who I am and my intuition and all of that I could really use these medicines as a opportunity to dive deeper into myself, into my own consciousness, and to dive deeper into transcendence and, whatever that may look like, and explore these other realms that I know are accessible to us, but perhaps not so much in this 3D world, which is why these medicines can be so powerful for that. And so I'm thankful and grateful that I'm at this place to be utilizing these medicines. And I think that's the beauty that comes with age, is that we can view them as an opportunity for healing and growth versus just using them to get high. That's not how I use these medicines. I use these medicines truly as a medicine, as a healing tool, as a self-connection tool. And I'm hoping that you would do the same for yourself. Of course, you're open to use them however you want, but I think that there's just so much more to them and beyond them than just, I'm going to get high. So with LSD, otherwise known as basically dropping acid, for the longest time, I was very much against doing LSD because I was letting all this external noise, from the outside world and from people tell me how, oh my God, how bad it is. I can't believe you're going to do that. And, I think that when we actually dive into like the history of LSD, like in the mid 60s, there was this suppression of LSD. There was sort of this like moral panic around LSD. And in the mid 60s, this led to, decades of suppression. And just now, I feel like that's really starting to end. And that's a great thing because, number one, they can be super healing, especially for mental health, like I mentioned earlier. But number two, I personally think that there was such this, and this is actually something Michael Pollan dives into, there was such this suppression around these medicines because it actually started to open people up. It started to wake people up to the possibilities that are within us. It really started to have us see the world in a different light and to ask questions. And, ultimately, the government didn't like that. And so I really think there was so much suppression of these medicines over the years because it really is having people wake up to a greater purpose and sort of reclaim their power. And we know that the government does not like that. And there's a sense of control. And I think that's why there was so much suppression around these drugs. And so it's great that now we have so much more research about them. And we're also seeing a lot of microdoses being used to treat mental illness and to support people in the process as they move on into the other world, as they, pass on and their soul is passing on. And also with like depression and anxiety, we're seeing a lot of support that these medicines can really offer us. So with my journey specifically, like I said, was really hesitant because I was letting so much of this external noise basically talk me out of doing it. And I had already now been on this journey with doing psilocybin and with ayahuasca, and that had opened me up so much. And even through my ayahuasca journeys, using other medicines in ceremony like hepe and sananga and kambo. And I can always dive into some of those into a future episode and explain more of what all of those are. But essentially, in entering into the world of ayahuasca, it really allowed me to experience so many other medicines and just really opening me up to all the other possibilities for healing and for growth. And then this led me down the path to trying LSD. Now, LSD isn't a plant medicine, but I actually do hear from a lot of people how it's like really just this like pure drug compared to something like psilocybin, where you could really get very tripped out. Psilocybin is mushrooms. And whereas with LSD, it could actually be a little bit more on the lighter side. And so, anyhow, that was what I decided to listen to finally after quite a few years. I literally had LSD here at home for like 2 years, and I would always kind of look at it and be like, am I going to try this? Are we going to do this? And then finally, I had a friend basically explain to me how it is so much lighter. And sometimes with psilocybin, it can be a little bit heavier. And you can kind of go on more of a deeper journey with psilocybin, but LSD is something that, is going to be a little bit lighter for you to actually even like go outside and, not that you're going to go drive your car or anything like that, but you could go outside and be in nature. And like, you're just going to have a very different experience with LSD than you are with psilocybin, as with, any drug for sure. So anyhow, I decided to really listen to him and his advice and kind of how he explained LSD. And when Gates and I went up to the cottage in July, we were like, we should bring some with us. This could be a really opportune time to dive in and experiment. And it's just going to be us. It's going to be quiet. We're going to be outside in nature. It's going to be sunny and beautiful. We're going to be by the water. Like, nobody's going to be there to interrupt us, or like no parents or friends or people are dropping by. So we don't need to worry about that. So we decided to give it a try. And so basically, I'm going to talk you through what my experience was and, kind of what I learned through it and how I felt and all of the things. And so basically, we started out by I took a quarter. It kind of is on this like little tiny piece of paper that you essentially, in sort of one way, you kind of melt it in your mouth. It doesn't fully melt. I mean, you're going to have to swallow it anyways, but it's kind of on this little piece of paper. And so I took a quarter and Gaetan took half. And so, put it under our tongue and kind of dissolves, and whatever's left you just kind of swallow, and doesn't really taste like anything. And so about 40-ish minutes later, we kind of look at each other and I was like, are you feeling anything? And I was kind of feeling a bit like slow, I guess you could say. Like when I was looking at things, like things were moving a little bit slower. Like I was kind of feeling it in my head a little bit. And so we kind of looked at each other and I was like, I'm feeling something, but like not a lot. So I was like, I think I'm going to do the other quarter. And so he did the other half. And so he ended up doing a full one. And so I ended up doing half. And so then we went outside, and that day specifically, this was actually right around the full moon. And so the waves that day were just like big, and it was amazing. We were right on the water at this cottage that we were at, and the waves were just so beautiful and just like crashing in on the beach. And so I put my bathing suit on. I was like, oh my God, like I have to go into the water. And for those of you who may know me, like I love the water. Swimming in a lake, swimming in an ocean, it's just so healing to me. And I love the water. Even as a child, like you couldn't pull me out of the water. And it's one of the reasons why I want a pool so badly. I do have our little mini plunge pool, which I love, but the water is just super healing to me. And so anyways, I was like, oh my God, I got to go outside on the water. I got to go crash in these waves. And so the cool thing was where we were on Lake Erie. And so it's like this crazy sandbar that goes out for like 100 feet, 150 feet. Like it's crazy. Like you could just walk out and it's super shallow. So here are these waves crashing in, and I just go running into the water and, crashing into these waves. And that's when I really started to feel the medicine. And I just had the craziest smile on my face. Like, I'm thinking about it right now, and my cheeks literally hurt so much that day from just smiling ear to ear. And I felt like a child. It was like my inner child came out to play.